Okay, so we're recording. So, hi Megan, how are you?
Hey Gemma, I'm good. I'm so glad to be with you and to share about my experience doing a little bit of work with you because it was amazing and I can't wait
Oh,
to share with anyone who listens.
yeah, no, I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to coach you, and I loved our session as well. So, yeah, really, I just wanted you to share your experience of the session. So maybe you could maybe first explain like what it is that you do, first of all. Maybe that would be a nice intro.
Yeah, really good place to start. So I am in the coaching and consulting or expertpreneur space, and it's a space that I've been in for 11 years. So I'm not brand new to being an entrepreneur. I'm not brand new to coaching and consulting. I'm not brand new to what it means to be running a business. Obviously, in those 11 years, just like any entrepreneur knows, there are a lot of ups and downs. I mean, life has a lot of ups and downs. So, the getting started phases, it feels like you're just a fish out of water. You don't know what you're doing in those first few years. And then you finally figure out what's going to work. And then you get like so far into it. And then you just sort of like assume like nothing bad's ever going to happen again. Like I've got it made. I made it to the top of the mountain. It's just going to be like coasting from now on. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You're never coasting. It never really gets like easy,
Mm.
and something is always coming up. And the further along you get, sometimes it's shocking when little mindset things come up or certain things happen in your external world. And the way that you react to that is very unexpected, or you don't quite know how to navigate it. So I've been doing it for 11 years. And I've also worked behind the scenes for an extremely large scale coaching company. So I know what it's like behind the scenes of exceptionally large companies as well. And my focus is primarily on working with business owners and supporting them with client retention and helping them extend the lifetime value of their clients. That's what I do today.
Cool. And mindset work isn't new to you, right? Like you've delved into
Correct.
this already. Like you've had coaching, mindset coaching in the past and done some courses and stuff, haven't you?
Oh yeah, and the large scale company that I worked for, she was a former psychotherapist,
Oh,
and
cool.
a large portion of the work that that company did was in the category of mindset. So you can't not do mindset if you are going to be an entrepreneur. It's just like par for the course. It just like it you might as well just realize it's going to be part of it.
Yeah. Just accept it now.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so in terms of our coaching session, because we only had one, what was the problem that you came to me with specifically that you wanted help with that we coached on?
Yeah. So, like I just said, I've been doing this for 11 years. So I am no stranger to showing my face, being on video, creating content, having conversations with people. I'm no stranger to putting myself out there, putting my neck on the line. I'm no stranger to taking risks, right? If you've been in this world for any amount of time, you can't be averse to any of that.
Yeah.
And over the years, something that I have noticed, and this will come up every so often, it comes up. And so after a while, like after it comes up a few times in a row, even if it's, every few months or once every year, and it stays there for a little while, like at that point, you know that it's a pattern. And
Yeah.
so something that I'm always looking for are patterns in myself. And it's like, every time I get to like X level, this happens. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things that I had noticed in myself, honestly, for probably like the last year to year and a half, and it's not like it was bad every single day, but it was just sort of like this lingering like feeling. And it was around like feeling like I didn't really have the clarity or the confidence that I knew I've had before. I knew I was capable of when it came to like expressing what it is that I do in the world
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
the person who is ready to receive that and is a really great client for me. And I just felt this block with creating content. Now, if I told anybody that in my audience, they probably wouldn't believe me
Mm-hmm.
because it's not like I wasn't showing up. I was still
Yeah.
showing up. I was still posting. I'm still emailing. I'm still creating content. So sometimes, like, the looks can be very deceiving.
Mm-hmm.
Again, because we think everyone outside of us, because we're watching what everybody's doing, is just like crushing it, hunky dory. They have no mindset problems. Everything's perfect. they have something we don't have. They just figured it out. There's no way on earth they're struggling with fill in the blank. But every single time I would sit down to create content, it felt a little too forced. It felt a little too like, what I said to you in my session, and this is kind of what we excavated and uncovered, I was defaulting, and I know this about myself, it's a pattern. I was defaulting to, well, I just need to show people that I know what I'm talking about. I just need to show people that I'm really smart. I just need to show people like I am the expert in this particular topic. And here's the 42 reasons why I know what I'm talking about. And it was almost from this place of like needing to prove, hey, I'm really good at what I do. And you want to work with me because I'm really good at what I do.
Yeah.
And my writing style, when I go there in my mind, it's like very technical. And it's good because I'm going to say this too. I get messages all the time from people who ask me who my copywriter is.
No way.
All the time. And I'm like, I've never had anybody ever write my own copy. But when I turn the whole, like, I've got to show people that I'm smart, which makes me good enough to be hired. My content is like way over their head and it's like super advanced and they're not even connecting with it in an emotional way.
Yeah.
And so then what would happen to me is then I would sort of like lose this, it's not like you lose the ability, but like in the moment, it's like I would lose the ability to connect with the emotions of the person and what's going on in their world. And so my content or anything I'm putting out there is just like missing the mark. And the more you like fire, aim, and shoot and miss, you do that enough times. And you start to question yourself. You start to second guess yourself. You start to think, well, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, or maybe I can't really help people, or I've been doing this for 11 years. Can I not figure out how to like write a post that convert, like every single post I write, like not convert, like how is this happening? And then you go, now you're down the rabbit hole with that. And I don't care how successful anybody's ever been or not, like that's a really tough place to be.
Yeah.
And it's also a very tough place to get yourself out of by yourself. Very tough. So that is real, that our whole conversation, our whole session was about that.
And what was the turning point in the session? Like, what did you feel shifted for you? What did you benefit most from our coaching session that day?
Yeah. I think a lot of us, no matter who we're hiring, we'll talk about mindset because that's why people are coming to you, Gemma. All of us in our minds at first, we just want somebody to tell us what to do. We just want someone to just like point their finger at us and say, this is your problem. This is what you need to do about it. And this is how you fix it.
Yes.
And that's not what you do. And that's also not effective coaching. If we're just telling everybody, here's your problem, this is what you should go do about it.
Yes.
When we're the client, we think that's what we want because we think that's what's going to like relieve the pain and relieve the pressure. And then we don't have to like keep trying to figure out what's wrong with us, because that's a really painful place to be, which is like to always think, well, there must be something wrong with me. I must be inadequate in some way, shape, or form.
Like I'm broken. What's wrong with me?
Yeah. And then the mind, that's all you think about. Then you're trying to figure out, well, what's wrong with me, instead of going out and being of value and of service to other people. I think a couple of things, Gemma. Number one, you have a certain ability to listen and pick up on cues and then ask the next right question. And that's really necessary when working with someone in the category of mindset. And, I know that you also follow a certain like process and system when you are coaching people, and that's insanely valuable. So what I loved is you're following an actual process to help me excavate what needs to come to the surface so that we know what next step to take, so that we know what next question to ask. Also, you were combining that with your own intuition. And so the combination of leading a coaching session where an actual system is being followed and you're combining that with your intuition is priceless, because what most people do in their coaching, they're not following an actual system. And so they don't really know how to get someone down a certain trail to get to the next milestone. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it was only one session and we got to probably like the first milestone, mm-hmm. but there was a process to actually get to the milestone. Then there's a process to get to the second milestone. Coaching is ineffective when there is no system or process that the coach is following. And they're just showing up there like, what do you want to talk about? Let's just dive in.
Yeah.
That's ineffective because the client talks in circles and talks about a lot of things that are completely irrelevant. Mm-hmm. And so everything that we talked about in that 90 minutes was so relevant to the problem I came with and the solution that I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And so that was huge for me. The other thing that was big, just from like a personal place, it was kind of connecting these dots that I said this to you on the call. I realized when I was talking to you, I was like, wow, I'm being so self-focused. I'm so worried about showcasing how smart I am that I'm not. It's sort of like there was like a wall between my heart and the heart of the person who I'm trying to talk to, because I was just focused on me proving that I know what I'm doing. That was a big one. Another one that was really huge that we like talked about for a few minutes was I was attaching my self-worth to how smart I am. And we even talked about like childhood, like a lot of childhood stuff and like why that's happening. Because for me, it's like, oh, well, if I'm not smart, then I'm not anything. And you even asked me the question, well, what if we took that away from you? What if we took smart away from you and basically you're just not smart, you're dumb? And I was like, you know what? I would actually probably really enjoy life. I would enjoy life so much more because I wouldn't be so worried about proving that I know what I'm talking about and proving that I'm really good at what I do and proving that I'm so smart. Like I wouldn't be thinking about it like that. Mm-hmm. So I would just like go out and be me if we took that away from me. So that was so interesting. And then it was like, well, then you're worthy because you're you. You're worthy just because you're made by God and you are a being and you're a human on this planet. Yeah. So that was really huge for me. And I can't remember, maybe you remember, it was right around that part of our session where I even said to you, I literally like I don't remember what my words were, but I could like feel the difference in my body.
Yes.
From being like a little bit like tightly wound up around this whole smart thing to just like relaxing into. Ultimately, it's like opening your heart up so you can actually connect with someone else's emotions and how they're feeling in the moment. And I could literally feel that in our session.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool experience to feel it.
I think in the moment. Like that is, I'm so glad you picked up on that, because that's a big part of the way I've been trained to coach, is to really connect what the thoughts are doing in your body as a resulting feeling. And I think the beginning of the session, because you have done so much work in yourself and you're very intellectually aware, what I picked up on was kind of like a lot of inner dialogue was coming out, because you're like, oh, but there's this and there's this. And then there was a pivotal moment when basically this memory popped up for you, that reference experience when you were like a little girl and you got like a fail on that piece of work, and you were terrified about what your mum, and that memory, just by zooming into that and evoking the emotions there, that's when the core beliefs then dropped in for you, and you had like re-induced that state for then all that stuff to come up about, oh my God, I've attached my self-worth to my smartness, and what if I did, so that was really a pivotal moment for you. And then I loved the sort of like when we did the figuring out the how, like, okay, so now we've recognized these distorted thinking patterns. It's kind of like a diagnostic tool in a way. It's like, okay, this is the bits where that's going on. This is how you've attached meaning. But then we figured out the how, and we're like, okay, well, what if you X, Y, Z? And then you just fell into this beautiful place of just opening up to what could be possible. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that last sort of section in the call? And then afterwards you were like, I've just written the most incredible post on social media, and I cried when I read your post, because it was,
oh my goodness,
so heartfelt, and it was just amazing that was then the result after our session.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, I mean, it helped me get out of up here, like get out of my head and into my heart. I mean, that's a really big one. Just letting my heart lead instead of I've got to prove that I'm smart, or like those limiting beliefs or that inner dialogue that you just described. Like I was letting that really run the show and lead me.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, like from the outside world, people are like, oh my gosh, I see you everywhere. You're crushing it and all this. But then you're like, yeah, but
Yeah.
like, because stuff isn't landing for people. And it's not landing for me either. Like you can, like, it's not, like you can feel that, but it's like, I knew that's what was happening when I was creating content, but I didn't know I needed you to take me through that process to excavate what we excavated. I never would have been able to do that by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how did you feel in your words after the session? Like what was the result for you?
A lot, I mean, clarity, I would say, clarity is one. I think it's so important to have that self-awareness. And now it's helping me notice, because it's not like the whole, like, I need to prove I'm smart. It's not like that. It's not like you did surgery and like yanked it out and it's gone. Like those memories are still there.
Yeah.
Like I can recall that memory and I can recall those emotions that I feel. Now I know what to look for. So now I know when I sit down to create content, I can identify, am I leading from the place of I've got to prove that I'm smart? And now I know how to catch that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know how to take myself through a process before I sit down and just get into proving mode. I can take myself through a process of really connecting with who the person is and what they're experiencing and what they're going through. Mm-hmm. And that's a completely different it's a completely different writing process or content creation process. And then your content is just landing in a very different way, and with different people as well. So it's more enjoyable. I mean, I'll tell you, like, it felt like hard work to prove that I was smart.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to prove I'm smart. I mean, I am, I don't need to go out and prove that. Like, that's hard work. It's easier to just speak from the heart. Yeah. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. And I just love everything you're saying, because we didn't even do a change pattern. Like this was just the very first session, which is, like I said, it's sort of like a diagnostic tool to bring that sense of awareness to how you're attaching meanings to things. And even that awareness was clearly so helpful and so powerful for you. Mm-hmm. So who do you think this type of, or my kind of coaching would be most helpful for?
Yeah. I mean, anybody who feels like they're stuck with in a certain area. Mm-hmm. Like I knew I was aware enough to know, like, I feel really stuck with my content and again, it's not like I wasn't avoiding it. I was doing it, but it just felt off to me. Yeah. So, and I knew it wasn't landing. Like the amount that I was working and the amount that I was putting out, I was like, okay, like you can't be doing this for this long. And then like, it's not landing and you have this much consistency and frequency and it's not working. And I knew I was coming from a place of like forcing and pushing it. Yeah. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So I think someone who feels very similar to that, and it could be about anything. It doesn't have to be content creation. It could be about anything where you just feel a little off, or something that you're doing isn't landing and you've been trying, like you keep trying to do it over and over and over again, and it's still not working in the way that is possible for it to work. Yeah. Like you do need to have a level of awareness, and you also need to have a degree of like, I know it's possible. Mm-hmm. I need someone to help me get from where I am to the it's possible, because I don't actually know what that pathway is, because apparently my way is not working. My forced way of trying the same thing over and over and over again isn't working. And now I'm going to throw my hands up and I'm going to surrender. I'm going to ask for help. Mm-hmm. That's who it's for.
Amazing. Well,
so thank you. Thank you, Gemma.
My pleasure. No, it was a wonderful coaching session. And yeah, you just did such a good job of just being really honest and really opening up and not being scared to just like pour out everything, with the questions, because it can be quite hard hitting. These questions are very powerful and they're there for a reason. And it is to sort of, like you said, really dig deep into what's going on. And, we did have to dig into your past a little bit, but I'm so pleased you got value from it, Megan. You were such a great client to work with. So thank you. And thank you for your time today as well.
Thank you, Gemma.
Okay, we'll speak again soon.
Yep.
Bye.